LexisNexis, LeakBase, Nissan, the FBI, and a whole bunch more is what we're going to be talking about on Breaches of the Week. I'm Nick Espinoza, your chief security fanatic, and let's dive in. And this week in data breaches was absolutely insane. But as always, I want to start with those that sent me a lot of these tips. So thank you very much, Leonard Kirk, Oliver Josh, JP Hammer, and Jacqueline Wolf. And let's dive right in. I'm still changing up formats a little bit, so I'm still taking feedback and all of that, but we are going to start in Indiana with DeKalb County. Now, in their notice, they stated that social security numbers, driver's license, and or identification card numbers and financial account information may have been leaked between August and September of last year. I don't know much more than that, but heads up, if you live in DeKalb County, your government got hit. Moving on, Insight Hospital in Chicago. Now, they had a data security incident that was first identified in September of last year and confirmed unauthorized access between August 22nd through September 11th of last year as well. Names, dates, social security numbers, passport numbers, financial account information, treatment-related information, and health insurance information was caught up in that. So best of luck to you, Insight Hospital and Healthcare in Chicago. And now for our mini segment simply entitled, If You Just Spent Money on Cybersecurity, You Wouldn't Be Getting Sued, You Wouldn't Be Losing Your Reputation, and we sure as heck wouldn't be talking about you right now. And we are going to start with Nissan, specifically Nissan North America, because they just agreed to pay $1.5 million to resolve their claims that they failed to prevent a data breach in November of 2023. Nissan has not admitted wrongdoing. So best of luck, Nissan owners or patrons of the car. Moving on, the Washington State Department of Licensing. That's the other DOL. I usually know it as the Department of Labor. So ARD Law Group, which is representing William Black, who filed a lawsuit against the DOL, claiming the agency knowingly allowed a major security flaw in its License Express system and therefore potentially exposed the personal information of every resident with a Washington license or state ID. So in other words, if you live in Washington, at least beyond this from a couple of years ago, you've been caught up in this according to this lawsuit. Such an exposure obviously could lead to, identity theft, all that kind of fun stuff. So one to watch, especially if you're in Washington State. Moving on, Mercer Advisors. Suit filed by Mercer customer Paul Berger is a class action. And according to Berger, Shiny Hunters, and if you're a longtime listener or follower, you know I've talked about these guys with almost like every week. Anyway, Shiny Hunters, basically extortion tactics have elevated to include, quote, swatting attacks and threats of physical violence. So what Berger is saying here is he's not just being threatened in terms of, hey, I have got your information, etc. They're threatening to SWAT him, meaning calling the SWAT team on him, which essentially means the police think there's a hostage situation. They send in the heavily armed SWAT teams, special weapons and tactics, and essentially it's people have been killed by doing this. So that's not good. And obviously physical violence as well, not a big fan of. Moving on, Cantata. I've never heard of them. I was originally looking at that and I thought Canada, just Canada? No, Cantata is if you're reading it. Anyway, according to information cited in their January 9 class action lawsuit, apparently they expose individuals' personally identifiable information. I don't have much more than that. And I have no idea what Cantata does, but I do believe they're in the United States. And so those were your lawsuits or payouts of the week. If any of them had just spent money on cybersecurity effectively, they wouldn't be ruining their reputation. They wouldn't be getting sued or paying out. And we definitely wouldn't be talking about them right here. Moving back into real time, let's talk about Service Lighting, Inc. Now, they're based in Minnesota. They provide light fixtures and light bulbs, and essentially an unauthorized person gained access to their network. And they say PII was hit with a combination of payment card information, including expiration dates and CVV codes. That is awesome. So if you have used your credit card at Service Lighting, Inc., you definitely want to check in and possibly change your credit card out. Moving on, LexisNexis, the massive search database, the threat group Fulcrum Sec claims to have exfiltrated 2.04 gigabytes of data from LexisNexis's legal and professional database in late February. Now, this compromised data reportedly includes sensitive profiles for federal judges, 118 users at the SEC, and Department of Justice personnel. The attackers claim to have extracted 45 employee password hashes, 82,683 customer support tickets, and 53 cloud secrets in plain text. So this could be used for a whole bunch of different things. This could be simply some random gang just trying to extort it. And they're saying, hey, we have this sensitive information that you wouldn't want to get out. Obviously, in the United States, we have seen a lot of judges, in the last few years or so, have rising threats against them and all of that based on judgments and everything. So this is a potentially very serious or lethal situation. And I hope that, quite frankly, everybody's protected and this data doesn't get out. But best of luck, LexisNexis, and to the federal judges, the SEC employees, the Department of Justice personnel. This is not good at all. Moving on, I want to do our news segment, basically entitled Hoser of the Week. Yes, this is basically Canada's worst data breach of the week. And quite frankly, we are heading to Halifax for this one. Halifax, if you've never been, is an absolutely gorgeous city. It is definitely worth a long weekend there. The seafood's amazing. Anyway, Halifax Water is who we are talking about. So if you live in Halifax and you drink water, odds are they are your supplier. Anyway, they said this past Friday that they're investigating a privacy breach involving their customer portal, where people can go and check bills. It's known as Customer Connect. So you can access your online information, read alerts, review your water bill, past and current, and all of that. The portal is remaining offline as they continue to investigate. And essentially, Halifax Water, the utility, is warning customers to exercise caution if they receive a phone call from somebody claiming to be Halifax Water. It's not the first time, for the record, that Halifax Water basically has experienced a data breach. In 2023, they reported about 25,000 account numbers and names were exposed because they were caught up in the Move It breach. So Halifax Water, you are my hoser of the week. Come on, guys. You can do better. Moving on, back into real time, I want to give you an update on the Keystone Technologies data breach because it is a supply chain hit. And this past week, the Orthopedic Institute of Western Kentucky in Paducah, Kentucky, is now declaring data breaches. And shout out to my friend Willie in Paducah. It's a really cool city. Moving on. EP Wealth Advisors on February 2nd, they detected unauthorized network after an employee's credentials had been compromised. This is why you should have unique usernames and passwords for everything. Don't reuse your passwords. If your password for your login for your employer plus is the same as Facebook, which is the same as Netflix and your bank, please go change your passwords. And this unauthorized party had access for about 4 hours, which is actually not too bad. It's bad, don't get me wrong, but I mean, they weren't in there for days, right? So not bad. Names, addresses, email addresses, dates of birth, tax IDs like Social Security, and employer IDs, financial account numbers were hit in some cases. Additional personal details were also there that basically if a person shared with one of the advisors. So hopefully it's a limited number of set, but EP Wealth Advisors, we'll see, especially if you're dealing with the wealthy. And finally, and again, this was a short week, and again, changing formats, but I went looking and I couldn't find as many this week. We have two finalies for you this week. The first one is a platform called LeakBase. Now, this is interesting because LeakBase has established themselves as a central hub in the cybercrime ecosystem, specializing in the trade of leaked databases and so-called stealer logs. Now, stealer logs are basically archives of stolen credentials harvested through InfoStealer malware. Now, accessible on the open web and operating in English, the platform combined elements of forum and discussion board, enabling cyber criminals to buy, sell, and exchange compromised data. Between March 3 and 4, coordinated actions across multiple jurisdictions severely disrupted the platform's operations and targeted its most active users. Now, this platform has been active since 2021. And LeakBase has maintained a vast, continuously updated service of breached databases ranging from historical leaks to newly compromised data. The forum featured large volumes of credential pairs, including email and password combinations, and other access credentials to facilitate account takeovers, fraud, and other cyber intrusions. Now, by December 2025, LeakBase had counted more than 142,000 registered users, approximately 32,000 posts, and over 215,000 private messages, underlining its scale and global reach. On March 3rd, law enforcement authorities carried out coordinated enforcement actions across multiple jurisdictions, including arrests, house searches, and knock-and-talk interventions. Around 100 enforcement actions were conducted worldwide, including measures against 37 of the most active users on the platform. On March 4th, authorities moved to the technical disruption phase, seizing the forum's domain, and replacing it with an enforcement splash page. If you've ever seen these in the dark web, it basically has the logos, in this case of Europool, and any of Europool's partners. Europool led the way on this one, and basically says this domain has been seized. It's kind of like a warning to the would-be criminals that they are constantly under surveillance and they're constantly being sought after. Now, the operation entered the prevention phase, aimed at deterring further criminal activity and raising awareness of those consequences, like I just mentioned. So, not a good look, but I'm glad that these things are being taken down. As a cybersecurity researcher and all of that, I have gone to sites like this continuously over the years, looking for this kind of information, obviously to talk about it here and whatnot. I'm not a cyber criminal. I'm not breaching anybody, unless we're paid to do it as ethical hackers. That's a different animal. But the point being is these sites exist, they're prolific, and I promise you, with LeakBase gone, another one's going to pop up very soon, or they're just going to shift to one of the other several forums out there. But I love to see these things happen. It's always a good sign when law enforcement is just really on it. So well done, Europool, and all of the partners that Europool has on this one. Moving on. Our last, finally, is sticking with law enforcement. And we're heading to the United States to talk about the FBI, the Federal Bureau of Investigation. They have officially acknowledged that a limited numbers of its servers were compromised by actors earlier this year. According to the agency, the breach occurred during the second week of February and was detected on February 17. The incident has obviously raised concerns about the security of sensitive government systems and the growing sophistication of cyber threats targeting national institutions. In its formal statement, the FBI confirmed that it has launched an internal investigation to determine the scope and impact of this breach. Officials have indicated the investigation is ongoing and that more detailed information will be released once an inquiry is complete. The agency also noted that findings from the investigation will be presented to the U.S. Congress in a formal report, which will outline how the breach occurred, what data may have been accessed, and what steps are being taken to basically improve and strengthen security measures within the FBI. Now, initial reports from cybersecurity resources suggest the attackers may have gained unauthorized access to sensitive surveillance-related data stored on effective systems. And according to information circulating within certain cybersecurity monitoring channels, including discussions observed on Telegram, the compromised information may include intelligence-related material used for investigative monitoring purposes. If confirmed, this could represent a significant security concern because such data may reveal investigative methods or sensitive operational details. And some cybersecurity analysts believe this breach may have been carried out by a sophisticated hacking group, possibly one backed or supported by a nation state. So was it the Russians, the Chinese, the North Koreans, the Iranians? Because obviously the United States is currently at a war with Iran. We don't know. But the point being is, unfortunately, the cybersecurity capabilities of the United States, quite frankly, have been weakened and loosened due to firings, Doge, all of those kinds of things. And the FBI was not necessarily immune to that. CISA got hit pretty hard, as did the FBI. So I'm hoping that they're able to clean this up, lock this down, and identify the data, which hopefully wasn't that sensitive. But nevertheless, when you are seeing essentially law enforcement agencies, usually pretty hardened law enforcement agencies getting hit, that really shows motivation. Now that said, there have been other gangs in the past that have claimed to have hit the FBI. Lockbit basically claimed that as well. As soon as they hit Lockbit and basically hit 1.0, they came out with Lockbit 2.0 saying, hey, here's all of the FBI files. I think Lockbit's on now 3.0, if I'm remembering correctly. So it's not the first time the FBI is caught up in this, but this really underscores the need to improve cyber operations. We should not be getting rid of cyber-capable personnel in any law enforcement or government agency. If anything, they should be trying to hire more. So here we are. Best of luck to everybody, but those were your breaches of the week. Were you impacted? Let me know. And please like, share, follow me here on Facebook and Twitter at NickAESP. And please feel free to subscribe to me at YouTube as well. And as always, stay safe, stay online, and please, 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 I don't want to say private, secure, and informed. Take care.